welcome back to my channel. It is Amanda. How are you today? Good. Tell me how. Leave a comment telling me how you are. Today is time for my, that wasn't a complete sentence. Today it is time for my Pan Those Shadows 2020 finale. This is a project that I started inspired by Kelly Nicole. Her channel will be linked down below. And basically, randomly choosing a palette and then randomly choosing a shadow to pan in that palette. Not panning an entire palette because that is so boring to me. I can't use the same palette every day. I have issues, it's fine. But I can definitely choose a shadow to pan. So I think I started this in February. I started it late, but I think I made good progress. I think I did some good work. I have my bucket of all of the palettes that I was trying to pan a shadow in this year. I want to go through all of them. Let's get to the update. No, let's get to the finale. So I was choosing 2 or 3 palettes a month depending on how much progress I had made the month before. So the first month I started with 3. I only have 2 of the palettes left. So we have the ABH Anasazi Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. And then the shade that I had chosen via a random generator, I was using the Pretty Random app, was the Tempura shade. As you can see, I definitely have pan in it. A big old circle of pan right there. I feel like I can finally pass on this palette. It's not that I dislike it, I just have newer, better shadows that I like. So I think that I'm actually going to declutter this palette. But I'm very pleased that I got a lot of good use out of it this year. Even the other shades that I wasn't intentionally panning, they have a lot more wear in them than they did at the beginning of the year, and I'm pleased with that. The next palette was the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette, and the shade that I was panning is this Cold Brew shade, which was difficult because it's a dark, dusty blue. I definitely hit pan in it and I'm pleased about that. I didn't use the rest of the palette as much as I wanted to because this was such an intense color. I was using this as like an all over lid shade quite a lot just to get a lot of use out of it and use as much shadow as possible. Maybe that's not the right way to do it, but that's how I was doing it. We're 2 for 2 so far. The next palette was the Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar palette in the shade Nougat. And I don't have the palette anymore, but I believe that I did hit pan in it. I should have probably written that down, but I didn't. I don't have that palette anymore. That's one of my older palettes, and you know, I just felt like it was time to move on. So I'm not one that strictly abides by, especially powder cosmetics expiration dates, but it felt like it was getting a lot of hard pan, and it's not that great to use. So we removed it. This was the ColourPop Proceed with Caution palette. This is the Shayla, or Makeup Shayla, and ColourPop collab, and then it was the shade Maintenance. There is the tiniest spot of pan in there because this took much longer than I was anticipating. I feel like this shade is one of the more firmly pressed ColourPop shades that I've ever used. So there's pan in there. Next we had the Lorac Neon Lights palette, and the shade was Blue Note. This is actually a great palette. This is a great neon palette. I believe this is still available on the Ulta website. This disco shade I used quite a lot in conjunction with Blue Note, but all of these shades are very pigmented. They're not patchy. Really impressed with the quality of this palette. Next on the list are 3 palettes that I don't have anymore. The Lorac Mega Pro palette in Fawn, and the Profusion Chocolates palette, the shade Apollo, and then the Cult Mythos palette in Glory. And I decluttered all 3 of those palettes. I believe I hit pan in Fawn in the Lorac Mega Pro, but I used Glory and Apollo for I believe 2 months, and I didn't hit pan in either of those, and I thought, you know what, this is not meant to be, I'm done using these. So I didn't dislike the palettes, but at the time I was in the mindset to pass them on, and so I did. The next palette was the BH Cosmetics Hangin' in Hawaii palette. Ugh. The shade Luau. This is a very soft shade, so this was pretty easy to hit pan on. It's a really pretty rosy pink, but I definitely had pan on that. Next was the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Dark Magic palette in the shade Potion. I didn't love this palette. The shade seemed very patchy. It was sort of an olivey green, and I know that can be a tricky shade to manufacture, but I also have olive greens perform really well, and this one just didn't, so I passed that on. The next palette on the list was the ColourPop Baby Got Peach palette, and we have the shade Ready or Yacht. This coral, it's very orangey coral, sort of like a sherbet. But this one was pretty difficult to pan too. I guess I thought that ColourPop shadows were softer than they are, and they're not. And then we had the Juvia's Place Warrior 2 palette in the shade Kana, I'm not sure. And that is this perfect everyday color right here. I could use this every day in my crease to blend things out. It was a really nice shade. These mattes are very pigmented. I really like the Juvia's Place mattes. Next palettes we have are the BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. I love this palette. I actually chose 2 shades in this one because the first shade was very neutral, and at the time I had a lot of neutrals that I was trying to pan, so I wanted to choose something a little more fun as well. So I hit pan on Escape, and then this Wicked shade, this beautiful purple. And then this very warm, almost orange brown matte shade I could use quite frequently as well, so that was really easy to pan or hit pan on. And that is the Weekend Festival palette. The next palette was the Makeup Revolution Chilled palette, and again I chose 2 because this is another neutral, and so I think I chose the neutrals first, and then I went back and added a more fun color to each palette. So this is Cool. And then this green up here is called Dope, and it's a beautiful green. This formula from Makeup Revolution, their Forever Flawless formula, is by far my favorite. I don't even purchase the others from the brand. This formula is my favorite. I wish this didn't have pot leaves all over it, but I love greens. And then the last palette for this month was the Nomad Cosmetics Marrakesh palette. Look at the packaging. Isn't that so beautiful? And the shade was Golden Mosque. This is actually pretty difficult to pan. I'm realizing that I don't wear a lot of gold, like yellowy gold. So this actually took a very long time because I want my eyeshadow to, I want you to be able to see that I'm wearing eyeshadow. I'm not wearing eyeshadow to like enhance natural beauty. I'm wearing eyeshadow because I want purple eyelids or blue eyelids or whatever. So, you know, this doesn't stand out as much as I would like it to. But the shade itself was still really pretty, and this was, I think, one of my first experiences with Nomad, was using this palette more than I had used my other Nomad palettes. Okay, and so then next we have the Tarte Bu Palette in the shade Be Sweet. This is a pretty shallow eyeshadow pan, and this is a shade that I could use absolutely every single day. So this was panned pretty quickly. I do really like this palette, but it's nothing absolutely amazing. It's cute. I think I got it on sale and I had like a Tarte award, so I'm pretty sure I got this for very, very close to free. So I'm probably going to pass this one on. And then the random generator chose the Marrakesh palette again. So the color that we chose this time randomly was Palmeraie, I don't know, this teal color. And I didn't even come close to hitting pan on this. This was in August, and I just wasn't feeling like wearing teal eyeshadow at the time, so I didn't. Next we had the BH Cosmetics Color Festival palette, the second part of the Weekend Festival line, I guess. And the color that me, I was trying to pan was this Queen shade, this really pretty steely purple. This is a perfect, I have 2 seconds, just swipe this all over your lid, blend it out a little bit. I wore this a ton that way. It's a beautiful color. I love how this color purple looks for my eyes. So I really enjoyed panning this, or hitting pan in this. I keep saying panning, you know it. Then we had the LA Girl Fierce and Wild palette in the Instinct title. There's two Fierce and Wilds. This one's the Instinct one. And the shade that I was trying to pan was this buff shade right here, which is another perfect like everyday setting your eyeshadow primer color. So I was able to use that. This palette, and actually all of these from LA Girl that I have, I think are really nice. I don't feel like people talk about these very much. I don't know if it's the price point, I don't know if it's because it's LA Girl, but I have 4 of these palettes from LA Girl. The 2 Fierce and Wilds, and then the other are Hot Hot Heat. And I can't remember the names for each of them, but there's 2 in each line, and they're so nice. They're such a nice palette. I believe they're $15. They're such nice palettes. So I was really pleased with this palette every time I used it, and especially this like matte orange shade. I use that a lot too, and it's just really nice. And then we have another Nomad Cosmetics palette. This is the Lago di Como palette, and the shade that I was trying to pan was this aquamarine shade. And this was like September, and I was like, I'm just not feeling blue eyeshadow. So I used this a few times, and I just decided to roll this out and choose something else in its place. Not because the shadow is bad, I just wasn't feeling wearing that much blue eyeshadow, which is weird because I love blue eyeshadow. Alright, next we have the Anasazi Beverly Hills Sultry palette, and the shade that I was panning in here, or trying to hit pan in here, is Birch. I gotta hold the brush always. This is this Birch shade. Again, very easy to hit pan in. Anastasia shadows are pretty soft, so they're pretty easy to hit pan on in my experience. This is another really easy shade to use every day, so this one happened pretty quickly. This is a great palette. I feel like they brought this back for holiday 2020. It's beautiful. And then we had an oldie but a goodie. This is ColourPop. Yes, please. This is their first pressed powder palette. This is what started the ColourPop palette madness. And the shade that I was trying to work on is Champs. Right, I just pointed to the back. You can't see the back. This sort of peachy matte. Again, pretty easy to hit pan in. And then we had the Lorac Pro Metal palette in the shade Quartz. This was very easy to pan as well. This is a Lorac shadow, so they're very soft, especially their metallic shimmery shades. However, I loved this shadow. I actually decided to just continue using it and finish it off, which I did. Which I gotta admit makes the palette look a little bit ugly now. It's a perfect inner corner shade. Honestly, if you're fair enough, you could use this as a highlighting shade, I think. It's beautiful, and I kind of want to set this palette aside to try to pan this entire palette along with whatever my next pan that project is for 2021. I'm not sure. I have an idea for my next project. I haven't worked out all the specifics yet. Okay, and then we had the Persona Cosmetics Identity palette in the shade Bossy. And that is this shade right here. You can see the divot in it. I made a lot of progress in this. This is a shade that it is shimmery, but it kind of, I feel like it could be used as a matte fairly easily. It's not metallic, it's just shimmery and like a glowy shade. It's not like, oh, that's super sparkly, or it's beautiful, but I think it can be used as a matte. I didn't hit pan on it, but I had this in here for 2.5 months, I think. So we're just calling this one good. Then we had the Tarte Fall Feels palette, this adorable flannel pink, and the shade Homecoming, which I was expecting to hit pan on immediately, and then I forgot how firmly pressed everything from Tarte is, because this is an Amazonian clay shadow, I think, right? Are all of their powder products Amazonian clay? Actually, I can't remember now. Anyway, I've used this forever, a lot. Like every single day for like 2.5 months, 3 months. No pan yet. Not a pan. I feel like I'm actually going to declutter this palette as well. While there's nothing wrong with it, it's just not anything that I don't have in other palettes that I do like more. So I think I'm going to declutter this one. And then we have the Too Faced Gingerbread Spice palette in the shade Warm and Toasty. I'm trying to cover up the mirror here. Warm and Toasty. Can you see? You probably can't see. Can you see the baby pan in there? Oh, it's so little. Oops. It's so little. This is a really pretty shade. The shade that I actually really love in here is called Hot Taddy. It's pink and gold, like a pinkish gold duochrome. You can see how much use I have in that one as well. This palette is very nice, but you know. Oh, Spiced Rum is also beautiful, but that's green, so of course I like it. Yeah, this shade is nice, again, because it's gold, and that's not something that I don't know. I have a lot of room to improve on all of my makeup skills. I do very basic makeup, and I'm aware of that. So I feel like I need to find a way to make golds look better on me, because I typically just don't ever love them. Even if there's nothing necessarily wrong with them, I'm not like, oh, I love this. I'm like, oh, sure, that's good for today, you know? And then the last palette is the Lorac Pro Palette, and we had the Mauve shade. This, of course, was very easy to hit pan in because it's a Lorac shadow and it is soft, which I like. I know a lot of people don't like Lorac shadows. I say this every time I talk about Lorac. I personally like the formula of Lorac shadows. This palette is so old. I feel like I should declutter both my Lorac and my Lorac Pro 2 palettes just because they're so old. I'm gonna hang on to that for a while. I hit goals in almost all of the shadows that I had. If I'm calculating this correctly, which it's probably wrong, I didn't hit pan in 6 of the shades that I selected, but I did hit pan in 23 of the shades. So I feel pretty good about that. I know that I have way too much eyeshadow. You guys are going to see a palette collection video in the new year, and I'm already telling you, don't you dare judge me. Don't you dare judge me. I love eyeshadow palettes. They are far and away my favorite makeup product, and I love them. I know I have too many. It's fine. If you guys were doing a pan those shadows, please tell me how you did. Go check out Kelly's finale video. I'm not sure when hers is going to be up, but I'll have her channel linked down below. She does a lot of project pan videos, a lot of indie dupe videos, like duping like mainstream brands with indie brands, things like that. So go check out her video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you're excited about 2021. I'm excited. I gotta figure out how to work it, but I'm excited. I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.